Hello out there, YouTube and airsofters. Want to do a short video, try and keep it as short as possible, on a gun that airsoft gun that I recently purchased, the G19. Just want to share with you guys my thoughts on it, my initial thoughts. I haven't shot it yet. I probably will do another video once I get squared away and get a chance to shoot it a little bit. It arrived in one piece, which it wasn't supposed to, and it arrived in this box. I'm sure you're all familiar with the box. Basically what we does to I guess kind of get by customs is they basically turn this box inside out. I had to put it right side back, I guess, once it came in. But when I opened the box, I was a little shocked. Like I said, it was supposed to come in 2 parcels. Plus, it comes with the instruction manual. I didn't get the small Allen wrenches. It's the only thing I didn't get that should have come with it. Not a big deal. I've got all the Allen wrenches I could possibly ever want or need. So, but what really was a little disappointing and a little shocking was the condition that the slide was in when it first arrived. Of course, when they ship it in one piece, what they end up doing is basically from the front sight forward, they paint it in orange paint. It's not a difficult paint to remove. Removed it with my fingernail, actually. Took about a half an hour. Didn't scratch any of the finish in doing that. They covered basically the whole side of both sides of the entire slide with electrical tape. Just a couple of small pieces here, right here on the bolt, even on the bottom of the magazine. I don't know why, but yeah, basically went around and put electrical tape on there and then painted everything, like I said, from the front sight forward with orange paint. It took me about a half an hour to clean it up. But I was a little disappointed to have to do that when the website I purchased it from was supposed to ship it in 2 separate parcels to avoid that. But not a huge deal. But I think it did kind of dampen my spirits a bit when I had to spend a half an hour removing orange paint. Just to give you a little background, I've owned an actual Glock 23. A Gen3 back in the day. Might have even been a Generation 2. I don't know. It was a while ago. I had the Model 23 because I like the 40 caliber. But this is very similar in size. With the magazine, I find it has a very satisfying heft. When you take it out of the box without the magazine, it's definitely underweight compared to the actual Glock. And I'm not going to compare it to the actual Glock because you can't. I mean, I paid $76 for this, plus shipping. I think it'd be a little unfair to we, or any manufacturer for that matter, to try and compare a $76 or even $100 gun to the actual real steel firearm. So I'm not going to go there. But just to give you, you folks out there some idea of where it really meets expectations and maybe doesn't. I know why it's light. I mean, I disassembled it very easy. I'm not going to waste my time to do that now. You guys all know how to do that. The slide is not steel. It's either aluminum or pot metal, and that's where you lose a lot of your weight, and also with the outer barrel. I like the fact that this is steel. I know some of the other brands, the outer barrel is plastic. This is not. This is aluminum, I believe, from what I can see. You know, where there's bare metal, it looks like aluminum. So the trigger is kind of light compared to an actual Glock, and Glocks are light, so this is super light. The spring, of course, is much lighter, and you know, it doesn't take much to reset it. But I mean, everything's functional. The finish on the slide is awesome. I actually like the finish on this slide more so than I did on my real Glock. The real Glock, if you guys have ever owned one or handled one, it's a uniform finish, and it's kind of the same texture, but it's not smooth like this. It's if you try to run your finger along the slide on a real Glock, it's kind of gritty, and it wears off. I think this will probably wear better over time. Did a nice job on the finish, and the lower half, the frame is very nice. I mean, yeah, you can see the seam line. If I recall, you can see the seam on a real Glock, probably not as pronounced. It's nothing that's uncomfortable or looks awkward or anything. It's like I said, it is what it is. Overall, now that I've got the pistol cleaned up, I'm very impressed. And when you put the magazine is awesome. I mean, I hope if it functions half as well as it looks, I'll be super happy. I'm going to try something for the first time. I know that guys have complained that this doesn't lock down, and I don't see any way it would, and that's a little disappointing. You'd think that they would have put some kind of locking mechanism, because I've heard that this breaks doing what I just did, letting it go and having it slam up at the top. So I'm going to try and come up with some kind of fix for that. Maybe some way of locking this down while you load it. Maybe I can come up with something. But getting back to what I was going to say, when you load this magazine in, that's when you get you get a very satisfying heft to this replica. Very nice. Slide release works as it should. Very similar, identical to the actual Glock. You can tell the spring isn't, I mean, there's a lot more tension on a Glock spring, and it has to have it, and this one can't have it because the small amount of PSI that's operating this gun has to be able to operate the slide. So, but the trigger's crisp. It's lighter than a light trigger on a Glock, and Glocks tend to have a very light trigger. So this is even, I call ultra light, if you want to, for lack of a better term. Resets very easily. The safety does work. If you just pull on the sides of the trigger without pushing down on that little button, the trigger will not go back. It has the safety underneath. I think I kind of like that. When I store it, I'll use that safety, not a problem. The sight picture is great. I'm very impressed with the sights that come on this gun. Overall, I mean, I have to say, for $76, it's a shame that we can't get them here in the States, because to pay almost half of what you're paying for the gun just to get it shipped, I think is a little ridiculous. But leave it to the ATF to make a big deal about such a little thing. I mean, if you were a criminal and you were stupid enough to use something like this to commit a crime, you probably deserve to get shot. And, you know, well, I won't go any farther with that, but I mean, it's a great hobby, and I think that, you know, other than the problems with, you know, between Glock and problems they seem to have with a lot of manufacturers, you know, using anything even remotely resembling their design. Hey, you know, I can understand it. There are patents pending on this. I think Glock is pretty pretty good at renewing their patents. They're very vigilant. They don't let their patents run out like some companies do. And I love the Glock. It's a very there's something about a Glock that to me is the quintessential pistol. You know, 21st century pistol. It's just the lines, the comfort. You can switch hands. It feels as comfortable in this hand as it does in that hand. It's a great firearm. I can't say much more because I haven't fired it. Taking it down, I don't think I'll be doing that very often. I actually, maybe it's me, maybe I need to watch a few more videos on YouTube to see maybe where I went wrong taking it down, but I took a little bit of the paint off, and I think that's a lot of that is because if you notice on a Glock, when you rack the slide back, the barrel tends to sit upwards like this at an angle. So whenever you release it, it scrapes that part of the barrel. But I do think I took a little bit of that paint off myself, taking it down, because getting this guide out was a little tricky. Yeah, and this isn't as strong a guide as you find in a real Glock, so I didn't want to bend it or break it. So I did get it out. Getting the barrel out, you kind of have to angle it out. I mean, maybe I just did it wrong. I'm gonna check YouTube and see where maybe I went wrong doing it. But I won't be dismantling it again until I get a little more information on it. The real Glock is very easy to dismantle, but it's, again, the internals are different to some extent. It's got a nice crisp action when you release the slide. Hey, for $76, I cannot complain. Other than, you know, having to pay like $35-40 to ship it from Hong Kong. The half an hour I spent taking the paint off, if I had scratched the finish doing it, I would have been really pissed off. But it was a paint, I think that's made to be, you know, easily removed. Like I said, did it with my fingernail, nice and gently, came off. You can't see any trace of it, and no damage. So where I wasn't a happy camper initially, I am very much a happy camper now. But again, it remains to be seen how well this shoots. I've seen a lot of videos. Seems to shoot well. Seems to be fairly accurate out of the box. So that's really, I mean, that's about it. Just to wrap it up, I went for the Gen 3, not just because it was a little cheaper than the Gen 4. I like the Gen 3's grips. I don't care for the grip on the Gen 4, where it's just stippled. This has a textured section. Hi guys, sorry for the edit. My camera decided to suddenly shut down for no apparent reason, so still have plenty of memory on it, but it shut down, so we had to take a little break. Again, I'm just wrapping up this video. During our little break, I actually did look in to this little problem here with the paint coming off the slide. I'm sorry, not the slide, the barrel, the outer barrel. That's an unfortunate no, not necessity, but I mean, it's there's no way to avoid it. And I'll show you the problem. If you consider it a problem, what it comes down to is this coat of paint. Excuse me. This coat of paint is pretty thick. I mean, you can feel it with your fingernail. I can feel the edge of it. So they put a very good coat. We put a very good coat of paint on this outer barrel. The problem is, this paint is so thick that when you're sliding the barrel, the outer barrel, out of the slide itself, when it's disassembled, there's no way, there's so little clearance. The tolerance is so tight on this opening that you literally are forced to scrape the paint off the barrel to get the outer barrel out of the slide. And I'll show you, there is a reason for it, and I'm going to show you why. And I can show you without even, well, maybe I guess I do have to take it apart, so not a big deal now, because now that the paint is off the outer barrel, it's actually, it comes out very easily. And there's a little, if I can give you a tip on doing it, jeez, you know, it's so oiled. It comes so oiled up from the factory, and it's kind of like a grease, almost a very light grease. My fingers are sliding all over the place. There's your guide and your spring. Inner and outer barrel. And what I'm going to do is, and I'm probably going to do this every time I take it apart, I just take the inner barrel out, put it aside. Because it just flops around and gets in the way, and it's a pain. I hope you can see this. I hope the camera focuses. I won't be able to tell until later on. But you see this little piece here? I don't know if you can see that. It's at the bottom of the nozzle. There's a little catch here. Plastic too, so you got to be really careful. I want to angle it so you can see it. I don't know if I can. But this little notch that they've built into the bottom of the nozzle gets in the way as you're trying to pull out, you're trying to slide. That's as far as I can get that barrel, that outer barrel assembly out before it hits that little notch. And you definitely don't want to force it and break that little notch, because you're all done until you get a new nozzle. So what I recommend doing is, with one index finger, push down on that little notch gently, back here where it doesn't overhang. Push down gently on that, and with your other index finger, press up on this breech gently again, and then slide the whole assembly back. Okay? But this paint removal, being scratched off, is from this section of the upper barrel, the outer barrel, sliding against this metal right here. And there's no way to avoid it. There really is no way to avoid it. They do have a product on the market. I wouldn't, you know, I thought, well, I'll just, you know, I'll spray paint it. It's just going to happen again. They do sell a product on the market that'll blue this. It's not going to look identical to the black finish that Wee's put on it, but just to hide that metallic shine from coming through, a lot of gun shops do sell a bluing material that you can, once you prep the metal, you can put it on here and it'll blue it. And you can do 2 or 3 coats until you get it as dark as you like it. They may even have a product that does black rather than blue, because so many pistols today are black rather than blue. So I'm going to look into it. Not a huge deal. The only thing that bothers me about that is, you know, maybe rust. So you definitely have to keep this lubed to prevent the bare metal from rusting. If it's aluminum, I mean, any metal will rust. Don't think because it's aluminum or even stainless that it won't rust, because any metal over time, if not maintained, will rust. Just some metals take longer than others, and they're more rust corrosion resistant. So that's what I did during our little interlude. So I'll just pop this back together. Pretty easy to put back together. And like I said, now that the paint has worn off, it's much easier to take out, to disassemble and reassemble. I think the tolerance was perfect without the paint. So when we designed all of this, they just didn't take into account the fact that they were going to really put a heavy coat of paint on here. And they did. And to their credit, they really put a nice heavy coat of paint. And the finishes on this gun are fantastic. I mean, it's got a very nice finish. They did a great job painting it and finishing it, and even the rather flat looking frame. It's not completely flat. It's just they did a great job, just like the real thing. So let me just pop this back together real quick and we'll wrap this up. Oh, so lame. Okay. And again, I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna push down on this and push up on the breech, and there she goes. And there you have it. Put our guide back in. I was just wrapping up during my first filming of the video, and I kept going. I didn't realize the camera had actually shut off. So the only thing I had left to say was, you know, I know some people out there kind of rag on airsoft owners, and, you know, oh, buy a real gun and blah blah blah, and, you know, it's a toy. It's a firearm. It shoots a projectile. It's dangerous, and it needs to be treated as such. I don't treat this any differently than I would my real Glock. I've owned many handguns, from revolvers to different types of pistols, 45s. I had a Glock, I had a Walther, P99. You know, whatever it is. I mean, if it fires a projectile, if it looks like this and it fires a projectile out the front, you need to treat it with respect. And I treat this this handgun, this pistol, with respect. It's a great trainer. It's great to practice on. It's a great training tool. I have a son and a grandson. If they're interested in joining this kind of a hobby, you know, taking it on as a hobby, it's a lot of fun, as long as you treat it with respect and are safe with it. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Have a great time out there. Enjoy yourselves, you know, in this hobby, and just be safe. Take care.